Hey everybody, Barb Nangle here, coming to you live from Known Co-working in downtown New Haven. Welcome to another episode of the Connection Corner. I am really excited to be here today. In a few minutes, I am going to welcome Kimberly Hynes from New York Life, who's going to talk about building your financial health and your financial house. But before I bring her on, I do want to say a few things about Known in case you are not familiar with us. Known is a dynamic co-working community to connect entrepreneurs across their fields of expertise, endeavors, and experiences. We started as just a purely co-working space in downtown New Haven. We're still the only co-working place downtown, but we've expanded into a multifaceted entrepreneur support organization, or ESO. As a reminder, we have hourly, daily, and monthly plans for dedicated desks and offices, as well as conference rooms and Zoom rooms available for rent to anybody in the community. If you'd like to know more about the space, feel free to send me an email. You can reach me at barb@knowncoworking.com. You can also check out our website, which is nhvknown.com, or follow us on Instagram or Facebook at Known Co-working. One of the ways that we support entrepreneurs is through these virtual programs. So in addition to this program, we have Digital Media Sync. This is hosted by Julia Gambale. She is social media maven of She's So Social. She occasionally does that in person, but we have 60 something episodes archived on our website. And it is your window to the digital world. And then this show is a place for entrepreneurs, creators, thinkers, and innovators to share either their own business or how they support the ecosystem of entrepreneurship in the greater New Haven area. If you or anyone you know would like to be featured on the show, go ahead and send me an email. My email, again, is barb@knowncoworking.com. Our purpose in the physical and digital space is to make connections between people. We're here to get you connected, inspired, and known. In addition to the ways that we support people digitally, we do a lot of things in person. For example, every Wednesday, we host Wind Down Wednesday, which is an in-person networking event for entrepreneurs and professionals. It's from 4 to 6:30. We're at 139 Orange Street on the 4th floor. And each week at about 5:30 or so during Wind Down Wednesday, we profile a different entrepreneur by having a fireside chat with them. And we've just started live streaming that on Facebook. So if you can't come in person, you can still check that out either live on the Facebook page, which is at Known Co-working, or you can watch the recording afterwards. So now that I've said all that, I'm going to bring Kimberly Hynes on. Hi, Kim.
Hi, Barb. I want to thank you and Known for bringing me on. It's delightful to be with you this afternoon.
Oh, good. Thank you so much for joining us. So I'm actually going to turn things over to you and let you take the full screen and have people kind of have you tell people and me about yourself and New York Life and what you offer and all that. And then I'll come back on, as it makes sense for me to do that. And I'm sure I'll have questions. I also want to say, for those who are watching, if you have questions, go ahead and plop them in the comments and I will share them. All right, take it away.
Thank you. So thanks everyone for joining us. I'm really happy to be here. I just want to tell you a little bit about myself first. I spent most of my career in social justice nonprofits, which was incredibly rewarding. Of course, I worked on democracy issues, health issues, things like that. And then we had some changes in my family, and I needed to make more of an income, frankly, than nonprofits would allow me to. So I was recruited into New York Life, and I have to say I love it. I am still in the position of helping people. I just help people's financial house be healthy rather than help them with voting rights. It's been very interesting to me. I actually didn't quite expect to love it as much as I do. One thing is New York Life is an incredibly ethical company, and that's very important to me. They have a huge foundation. One of their prime charity goals is to help grieving children. So we see a lot of programs where we work with schools to help educate educators about how they can best serve children that have lost someone. We also have a social justice arm, and New York Life, frankly, has been around for 178 years, I believe it is this year. So they're rated financially as secure as the US government, as you know, the highest financial rating you can have. So New York Life stays around to take care of people. No matter when you pass away, New York Life will be there for you. We are also a mutual company. We're the nation's largest mutual life insurance company. And what that means is we are not traded on Wall Street. We don't have stockholders. We instead give back to our policy owner. Our policy owners are part of the company. So New York Life generally pays dividends. Now, as the nature of dividends, we can't promise dividends every year, but for the past 168 years, we've paid dividends, and that goes into people's cash value life insurance. It goes into people's annuities, and it really helps your wealth grow in a very dynamic way. In New York Life, we like to talk about building people's financial house. We are holistic financial planners. I help people with all kinds of aspects of their life. If I don't know the answer to something, I can help you get an advisor that does. So we talk about building the house in terms of foundation, the basic structure of the house, and the roof. In your life, when you're building your foundation, that's when you're first starting your career. Perhaps you're buying a house, getting started in your job, moving up the career ladder, opening your own business, whatever it is. That is the time when you should put some basic protections in place, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. The basic inside of the house is your working life. So that's where you're accumulating your income. That's when you're starting to protect your wealth. That's when you hopefully accumulate a good amount of income so that when you're on the roof during retirement, you can enjoy the fruits of your labor. Our goal at New York Life is to help people go where they want to financially. I think people are sometimes mistaken in thinking that they only need a financial planner if they have a lot of wealth. That's not actually true. People at all levels need some financial planning. And the earlier you start, the better. In particular, for entrepreneurs, your biggest asset is yourself. It's your ability to make income and provide for your family. How do we protect that? Well, there's a number of different ways. Of course, everyone should start off getting life insurance. Sometimes it's a hard thing to think about, but our deaths will affect other people. If you want your family to be protected, even just your loved ones to be able to pay off maybe your student loans and bury you, it's important to have something in place. We also use life insurance as a buffer asset for people. There's two different types of life insurance. There's whole life insurance and term life insurance. Term life, it's in the name, it's for a certain period of time. You can get a 15-year term policy with the intention of just covering your mortgage if you pass away. And if in those 15 years you don't pass away, the policy goes away and you've protected yourself, but you haven't gained anything. Whole life policies are different. Whole life policies are in place for your whole life until you die, whenever that is. And they build cash value inside the policy. New York Life policies, you build it two different ways. You build it by paying premium into the policy every month, every year, however you set it up. And you also can put your dividends in there so that your cash value grows over the years. And it's a asset that you can draw on tax-free. There's not a lot of places in the world where you can have money tax-free. Whole life insurance is one of those places. In general, when you're working you're going to look to have 3 different buckets of money, which are taxed differently. The money that you pay your bills with, the money that you need right now, that's the taxed now bucket. That's your income tax comes out of there. Then you have the taxed later bucket. And this is when you set up your 401ks or other retirement vehicles. That money grows tax deferred. And then when you go to use it, when you're retired, you will pay taxes on that when you bring it out. The third bucket is the tax-free bucket. And that's where whole life insurance is placed, along with Roth IRAs, if people can set those up, and 529 plans. But the options for tax-free are limited. And so that's why it's important for people to have that whole life as a buffer asset. If you have most of your retirement in a 401k in the market in some way, you are vulnerable to market ups and downs. With the whole life policy, you are not. That money grows tax-free, and it's there for you to use at whatever point for whatever you would like to. So we really generally think of whole life as part of someone's retirement portfolio that they're saving for. Now, other things, other protections in place, particularly entrepreneurs, self-employed people, you don't often have access to disability. So if you get sick or injured and you stop working, there's nothing to replace your income. You're dead in the water. You can't pay your bills, perhaps your partner or spouse doesn't make enough to cover everyone. So it's very important to have something in place to protect your income that way. New York Life has individual disability policies so that people who are self-employed, who are entrepreneurs, can actually have disability in place without working for, say, a large corporation. So that's really looking at it is you're leveraging a small amount of your assets to protect all of your assets. It's pretty cost effective. It doesn't cost a huge amount of money. And I know people really need it. I'm going to give you an example. The managing partner at New York Life had a brain tumor. And it came upon, he was diagnosed very suddenly. And now all of a sudden he will be out of work for months and months and months. If he did not have disability in place, his family would struggle, definitely. Another example is my aunt, unfortunately. She was working for a small company, did not have disability in place. And she was walking down the street with her dog, and another dog came and attacked them. And she ended up with a traumatic brain injury. And unfortunately, since she did not have disability in place, she is no longer able to work. And she has moved down with her daughter. Fortunately, her daughter can help support her. But if she had that in place, she would still be covered with her income. And so she could live independently. And so, thinking about these things is uncomfortable. Nobody wants to think about getting hurt or getting sick or dying, for goodness sake. But it does happen, and it's really best to prepare for it. And if you have the protections in place, you and your family will be just fine, no matter what happens. So that's a little bit about that. I'm going to go into a little bit of a more fun subject, is saving for retirement. You absolutely want to put away as much as possible towards your retirement. The earlier you start, the better. And even starting with a very small amount, it can grow because it grows tax deferred. And so I'm going to get a little wonky here to give you some idea of how important that is. So I want you to imagine $1, and I want you to imagine 20 years. And every single year, that dollar is doubled. Every single year, the money's doubled. At the end of 20 years, you have $1 million, which is great. And I'm not saying that that's a return for anyone. It's just used for an example for the tax deferral. 20 years, $1 million. What if instead of growing tax deferred, you were taxed on that money every single year? And at the end of 20 years, instead of $1 million, you would have $83,000. So that's a big hit, right? In contrast, if you had that dollar doubling every year in a tax deferred vehicle, like a 401k or an annuity or something like that, your tax hit, you would end up with I believe it's $73,000. So you can see the power of tax deferral, but the power of compound interest. Even putting away a little bit each month really benefits you in the long run. So I am going to pause right here just for a moment to see if Barbara has any questions.
Okay. So I've honestly found this to be riveting. I love, much of my younger life, I buried my head in the sand about finances. And in fact, when in 1999, when I graduated from I didn't even graduate, when I got done with my actual taking of courses for grad school and my student loans came due, I ended up declaring bankruptcy because I had accumulated so much debt on credit cards, which was the second time I had done that. And of course, the student loans can't be declared in bankruptcy. But by 2008, I had turned my financial life around to the point where I bought a home.
That's amazing.
So during that period of time, I did some massive work in changing my financial habits. And so for years after that, I read something about money every single day to keep it in the forefront of my mind. And I could still be better, but I am in the best financial position of my life because I really pay attention to my finances now. And I really have just learned about whole life in the last few months, and I have a whole life policy.
Oh, good for you.
And when I really came to understand the benefits of it, I was like, what? And I will say, I know that there's a lot of myths out there about whole life insurance. I don't really know what they are, but I'm guessing that people watching this have probably heard some of them. If there are any of them that come to mind that you know what they are so that you could debunk them here, I would love to hear from that. If you don't know what they are, that's totally fine. But I think I'd like to start with that because I know that that's a kind of a hot button issue for some people.
I think a big one is people say, I can do better in the market, which yes, you can. However, first of all, the money in the market is going to be taxed right along. Second of all, what if, so say you're saving it doesn't even have to be retirement. Say you're saving for a down payment on a house and you have your money in the market, and that year you're going to buy your house. Well, it's 2008 and you've lost 80% of the value.
Which, by the way, was the year that I bought my condo. September 10th. So like 3 weeks later, my condo was worth 2/3 of what I paid for it. So, yeah.
What if it's a 529 plan? This happened to my immediate partner. His daughter, they saved and saved and saved and saved and saved. And yes, the year his daughter went to college, the market crashed and they lost 80%. And, now she's student loans all over the place. With a whole life policy, your return is not as great, but is the safest money you'll have. And it, again, accessed tax-free, so you don't have to pay taxes on it.
Right.
So, and it shouldn't be your entire savings strategy.
Right.
Of course not. But it's a buffer asset to be there no matter what happens.
Right. Yeah. And my understanding is not only can you pull that money out, but you pay the money back at 0% interest. So it's like, and then the other thing that you get at the end of your life is somebody gets some money.
Yep. Right? And that is the best way to build intergenerational wealth.
Right. Exactly. Is to have life insurance and pass it on down to your family. That's right. Yeah.
A lot of times nowadays, I am writing a lot of juvenile policies. Parents get, maybe it's just $100,000 or something. It's a very small nut, $40, $60 a month.
Right.
That insurance is in place not only as a savings vehicle in the immediacy for them, but if they happen to become uninsurable in the future, they still have that.
Right.
And they can add to it with simplified underwriting. So it could be something as simple as Lyme disease.
Right.
It could be diabetes. It could be any number of things.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. That's a really good point. And The example that I heard about like juvenile policies is that the guy that was talking about it has 4 kids, and so he has a policy out on himself, his wife, and all 4 of his kids,
Mm-hmm.
and then he overfunds it and uses that when he wants to do a new aspect of his business. He pulls the money out, pays it back, but he pulls it out at 0% interest.
That's fantastic. You can
Yeah.
also pull out money without paying it back up to the amount that you put in premium.
Right. Yeah. So the other thing that for me was really interesting was the disability, because I
Yeah.
think, like, you're right, nobody likes to think about getting sick, but that's what insurance is. Insurance is, we hope nothing happens, but we know that it does sometimes, so we want to take care of it.
1 in 4 people will become disabled at some point.
Right. Oh my goodness, I had no idea. And people are really clear when it comes to health insurance and to car insurance.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
maybe even homeowners insurance if they're a homeowner, maybe even renter's insurance. But disability insurance, like you said, I've actually had a disability insurance policy for 15 to 20 years. I can't remember how long ago, because part of my overhauling of my financial life was to get a financial advisor and to kind of get my financial house in order.
Even if you're as healthy as a horse, you don't know what's going to happen.
Right, exactly. Yeah, my partner got a chronic illness when he was like 52 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And he's not able to get a life insurance policy at this point in time, because who knew that was going to strike? Because that's another reason, to do it. Not even just for juvenile policies like you were talking about, but even if you're a somewhat older adult and you don't have a life insurance policy, And I am not married and I have no children, and I actually want to leave a legacy. I have a fund in the name of my younger brother who is deceased that will be created in his name when I die. And the money is coming from whatever else I have and my whole life policy. So even if I thought for most of my life, I'm like, I don't need life insurance because there's nobody that's dependent on me. And then I realized, well, actually, I want to leave a legacy in my brother's name. And this is how I can do that, right? So that's another idea.
Yeah, I've actually worked with a number of nonprofits with their donor base. Life insurance is a really low cost to leave a very large gift to your favorite charity.
That's a brilliant idea. I love that. Oh, I really like that a lot. Yeah. I mean, I knew that because I'm doing that, but yeah, wonderful. There was something else that you said that I really wanted to talk about and it's escaped me. So the house was like
the foundation when you're just getting started in life, you want to put some protections in place. And then the house itself during your accumulation years when you're working. And that's particularly when you need disability.
Yeah. I think the thing that struck me the most, though, what you said was about the 529 plan where they lost like 80%. And then also, what was the other one where they went to buy a house and it was the market crashed and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Right. So those are things that the whole life policy could protect from. And like you said, your return rates are not as high as they are in the market, but the stability is there. And there's the payoff at the end of your life for the intergenerational wealth. And a huge percentage of the people in our community are people of color who have been kept out of a lot of financial vehicles for the past 400 years.
Yes, New York Life, actually, we have an arm that's specifically dedicated to building intergenerational wealth among the African American in particular.
Okay, that's so good to know. Yeah, I love that. I mean, I think that's so important. And I know that there's a number of people in my community that are really focused on 2 things for the Black community: health and intergenerational wealth. Because we need to be healthy to take care of ourselves and build our community. And we need to be very cognizant about how do we build and pass down intergenerational wealth.
I would love to network with those folks. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's so good to know. That's really good to know. There was one other thing, it was I think a lot of people don't understand what a Roth IRA is.
Okay.
So I know I get that now, but I had to hear about it a number of times. So maybe you could explain what a Roth IRA is.
Sure. A Roth IRA, it's a retirement vehicle. You put after-tax dollars in. So this is regular income that's been taxed that you're putting in. There is a income cap in terms of being able to build a Roth. Off the top of my head, it's 125. I don't quote me on that. I would have to look that up. But that Roth IRAs, you put it in there, your money grows. You don't have any tax consequences when you go to access it.
Yeah.
So it's in the tax-free bucket. You can only put a certain amount in a year, $6,000 maybe,
Right.
but that grows in a very attractive manner.
Yeah. Yeah, and actually that was making me think, because not only Roth IRAs, but regular IRAs, there's a limit to how much you can put away every single year.
There's a limit of how many pre-tax dollars you can put into your 401ks.
Okay.
However, if you have maxed out your 401ks and you want to save more towards retirement, you can put after-tax dollars into one of our retirement vehicles, one of our annuities.
No kidding.
And so you won't get taxed on the amount you put in. When you go to use it, you'll only get taxed on the growth.
Okay. But when it comes to a whole life policy, is there a maximum that you can put away per year?
You can get as large, it's up to, I think I myself can write up to like a $99 million life policy. So there's not a huge limit of what. Okay. Now, that said, there is a limit on a particular face value. So you're going to put your premiums in, but and it's possible to pile more money in on top of your premiums, but there's something called a MAC, which is a tax consequence. So if you put too much money in, the government looks at that no longer as a life insurance policy, but as an investment vehicle. So you're going to get taxed. We get around that by adding what's called a dot rider, a dividend option term rider, and which gets you, so you pay a little bit more for extra term insurance, and that brings you under the MAC limit. After 7 years, that restriction goes away and you don't have to worry about making your policy anymore.
Okay, wonderful. That's really good to know. So there's not a maximum of how much money you can put away. And then you mentioned with the Roth IRA that there's not just a cap on how much you can put away, but after you make a certain level of income, you can't take advantage of the Roth IRA. That is not the case with whole life insurance. There's none of that stuff. Okay.
Now, they have monkeyed with the Roth rules a little bit, and they have just put a law in place that even if you're a wealthy individual, you can do a Roth conversion. So you can take a regular IRA and convert it into a Roth. Now, what has to happen is you cash out that IRA, you pay taxes on it, and then you can put it into a Roth.
Oh, okay. Got
and
it.
So in that way, the limits go away, but there's the tax consequence on the outset.
So I just realized that at no time have I put your contact information here. I forgot the whole time. So I'm going to put them up there and leave them up there, because it seems like we're probably wrapping up here.
And now there was one subject you wanted me to touch on, which is retirement plans in the state of Connecticut.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
So let me just quickly address that.
Okay.
So the state of Connecticut now requires a business of 5 people or more to set up a retirement plan for their employees. You can do it through the state of Connecticut vehicle, and which is fine. If you do that, though, you don't actually have any control on what the money is invested. It's just like in a pool with other people. If you don't want to do that, I or any New York Life agent can help you set up specific plans that you have control over what it's invested in. So, and I'm happy to do that.
Okay. So, so the reason I asked him about that was I just yesterday sent out on the known email list the notice about, I think it's my CT something. I can't remember what
Yes.
it is.
Yeah.
And it talked about how an individual person who works for an employer that doesn't provide a retirement can opt in,
Also, yes.
and that employers that have 5 employees or more must opt in.
Well, they
And
must
so
offer a retirement plan,
right,
either
they
by
must offer a
opting
retirement
into it.
plan. You're
Yeah.
right. They don't have to opt into that one, but they have
Yes.
to offer something. So question for you about that, whether they do the state one or whether they do
Yeah.
the New York Life one. When the employer, so like say an entrepreneur that's part of the Knownpreneurs Growth Lab and they have 6 employees, right? So they're one of those people that has to do that. Are they paying anything towards their employees' retirement, or they're just setting up the system
I
whereby they're funneling
believe
money out?
I believe the state of Connecticut law says you must match, I think it's 3%, but it's a small percentage.
Okay.
And yeah,
Okay.
you are on the hook for that.
Okay. And so, and that would be true if they did the state of Connecticut's policy or the New York Life policy. Okay. Good to know. All right. Awesome. Great
One
information.
last thing I wanted to touch on is so we have entrepreneurs joining, I imagine of all ages. So, one other thing I can help with is if you have come from the corporate world and are now building your own business, you may have a 401k plan that you left behind. It's probably fine, but again, you do not have control over that money. It's probably not actively managed, and it's extremely vulnerable to the market.
Mhm.
I can help you roll over that to New York Life. And we have vehicles where you can, if you're savvy, you can pick your investments. You can have the managers pick the investments. And also, we offer products with downside protection. So we can make it so that you never lose a penny of your original investment.
No kidding.
Yeah,
Wow. No kidding. That sounds fantastic.
it is.
Awesome. Great. I love it. So I can see why you picked New York Life. And I really love that you started with your personal story. I'm a big fan of connecting with people on a human level. And I love your story, and doing business ethically is incredibly important to me too. So I really appreciate that. I don't have any more questions for you. Is there anything else that you haven't gotten to share that you really wanted to share?
I don't know. We're an animal rescue family. I'll share a little bit more personally.
Okay, sure.
We have 2 rescue dogs, 4 rescue cats, a rescue chinchilla, and a rescue horse.
Wow. And
And
did you
6
say you
ducks.
have, I was gonna say, didn't you say you have ducks? Maybe they're not rescue ducks,
Well,
but
we rescued them from Tractor Supply.
that's so funny. Awesome. Fantastic. And what town do you live in,
I
Kim?
live in Woodbridge, and my
Okay.
office is in Stratford. I'm
Oh,
happy to talk to people. Also, it costs you nothing to talk to me.
right. Okay. That's good to know.
You can have
Yeah.
all
So
the
they can,
advice, and you don't have to
right.
do
That's
anything.
so cool. That's
Yeah.
really cool. Okay. And so they can either email you at the address there, or they can go to the website that's going across the bottom of the screen.
Yep.
So if you wouldn't mind sticking around for a moment while I'm
course.
going to pull you off the screen, but if you wouldn't mind sticking around for a minute, that would be really great, because I want to just close out the show. So thank you so much.
Oh, you're
This was
welcome. It
really
was my
valuable
pleasure.
information. Oh,
Thank you
you're
so
welcome.
much for having me.
Alrighty, so let me just figure out how I'm doing that. Okay, well, thank you everybody for joining me. Thank you so much to Kim for providing this really valuable information. Even if you're watching the recording, you can leave comments and we'll get them to Kim. But I do recommend that you reach out to her. Our next episode of Connection Corner will be, I think it's 4 weeks from today. It's Friday, February 17th at 3 p.m. It's featuring Pat Hall James of the HR Source, and she's going to be talking about human resources issues for entrepreneurs. So I hope you will join us then or watch the recording. Take care. Thanks again. Bye, everybody.